The France you know today is very different from the France that existed a couple decades ago. Through the years, a lot has changed about the European nation politically, economically, and culturally, but especially footballing-wise. As a nation, they were down in the dumps for much of the 90s, failing to qualify for major tournaments and being a threat to nobody. They had come close on a few occasions, but they had never managed to actually rule the world. This nation was in desperate need of a savior, someone to lift them from the shadows and lead them to greatness. They had close calls in the 80s and 90s, but the one who truly changed everything didn't arrive until 1994. A random 22-year-old dude from Marseille came along and put a whole nation on his young shoulders. He wasn't the fastest, nor was he the strongest, but one thing was for sure, he had a good head on his shoulders. It was that head that helped him and France ascend the ultimate football throne in 1998. But it was also that head that led to his disgraceful fall some years later. You see, there aren't many people who have done as much for French football as Zinedine Zidane. He entertained, bedazzled, and very proudly flew the flag. He helped France win the FIFA World Cup for the first time in their entire history in 1998 with 2 huge goals in the final against favourites Brazil. And to make it even more interesting, he did it in front of the home fans. So you can surely understand why he's revered as a god in every city in France. In fact, you can argue that Zizou the greatest player to ever wear the France shirt. See, Michel Platini won the Ballon d'Or, the Euros, and the Champions League, but never the World Cup. Thierry Henry won the World Cup, the Euros, and the Champions League, but never the Ballon d'Or. Kylian Mbappé has won the World Cup, but has still never won the Ballon d'Or, Euros, nor the Champions League. But then you have Zinedine Zidane, who won it all, so yeah, if you called him France's greatest ever player, you wouldn't be wrong. But one day, he did a really shameful thing and let his entire country down on the grandest of stages. During his time, Zidane carried French football on his back. After leading them to success at the 1998 World Cup and Euro 2000, Zidane decided to retire from international football after Euro 2004. After he left, Les Bleus crumbled. The last world champions of the 20th century were now struggling to qualify for the 2006 World Cup. Things got so bad that the coach Raymond Domenech had to beg Zidane to come out of retirement. He was already nearing the end of his career, but he loved his country so much, so he returned, and with him back on the team, France secured qualification for the 2006 World Cup. Little did he know that that tournament was going to blight what was already a seemingly perfect career. Losing his head at the most crucial moment was certainly not in the script for Zidane. But we all lose our heads sometimes, don't we? Sometimes you look at your life and you don't seem anywhere close to accomplishing your 5-year plan, and it seriously affects your mental health. Football might be a good distraction, but you might need to see a professional therapist to help you properly work through your issues. A therapist can give you quality advice to help make positive changes in your life. BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. Fill out a questionnaire, and you will be matched with a therapist as soon as possible. And you can easily switch therapists at any time at no extra cost if you feel it's not the right fit. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/9 and get 10% off your first month of therapy. The tournament surely ended with fireworks, but it started as the most boring affair ever. France drew their first 2 games against Switzerland and South Korea, and it felt like even Zidane could not save this horror show. After 2 games played, France found themselves 3rd in their group, and at risk of elimination in the first round. But in the final group game, they managed to beat Togo 2-0 to sneak into the round of 16 as the second-placed team. No one thought they'd go far after that terrible group stage performance. But with everyone writing them off, Zidane decided to rise and, for one last ride, carry France on his back. He scored and assisted against Spain in the round of 16, assisted the only goal, and was named man of the match in the quarter-final against defending champions Brazil, and then scored the only goal in the semi-final against Portugal to send France to their second final in the last 3 World Cup editions, where they were to face Italy. Going into that game against the most successful European nation in World Cup history, all eyes were on Zidane. He had already announced his retirement from football after the 2005 to 2006 season with Real Madrid, so everyone knew that the World Cup final was going to be his last game as a professional footballer. It looked like it was about to be the perfect story. The greatest ever French player bowing out when the ovation was at its very loudest would have been perfect. Winning France only their second ever World Cup in his last ever game would have just been so perfect. Perhaps even too perfect. It seemed like an unrealistic fairy tale, but the game started following that exact script. Just a little over 5 minutes into the match, Florent Malouda went down in the box, and the referee immediately pointed to the spot. Upon watching the replay, it looked as if Materazzi had pulled his leg back just in time, but there was no VAR back then, so the penalty stood. Zinedine Zidane stepped up with balls of steel, and on the biggest stage of all, pulled out a cheeky Panenka on one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time.
Oh, it crossed the line, it's a goal, but how lucky almost is that? How casual, how cheeky. Only one of the world's great players would attempt anything as audacious as that, but he nearly paid the penalty.
Gianluigi Buffon. The ball kissed the crossbar, bounced off the ground, and came out. Buffon quickly grabbed the ball and tried to play on, but the ball had already crossed the line, so it was awarded as a goal. France could not have asked for a better start, and Zidane could not have asked for a much better end to his career, but it was never going to be easy from there for France. Italy were no pushovers, and the French players knew it, so when the Italians came knocking immediately after the goal, they were surely not very surprised. In the 13th minute, Pirlo sent in a cross into the box from a free kick, but it was headed out by a French defender. A few minutes later, Pirlo sent in another cross, this time from a corner, and Marco Materazzi rose highest to connect with the ball and net the equaliser. He had given away the penalty in the opening 5 minutes, but he atoned for that with his equaliser in the 19th minute. With that, everyone knew we had one heck of a game on our hands. Both teams had found the back of the net in the opening 20 minutes, making it the only World Cup final between 1990 and 2014, where both sides scored. Zidane and Materazzi had stolen the headlines early in the game, but little did we know that those two were going to make much bigger headlines later in that same game. But that was still some time away. For now, Italy just kept knocking and knocking, trying to take the lead for the first time in the game. In the 28th minute, Pirlo played another cross into the box and Materazzi rose to head it past the keeper, but Lilian Thuram was there to make a vital clearance. However, even if he had scored, that one wouldn't have stood as the referee spotted a foul before the header. In the 35th minute, Luca Toni attempted a shot on goal from inside the France box, but Thuram made a very important block. Pirlo took the resulting corner and found Toni, whose header hit the crossbar and bounced out of play for a goal kick. Italy were really running riot on France, especially from set pieces, but France knew they had to find a response, and they started to do that in the 36th minute. Thierry Henry made a run with the ball, but his shot was blocked. The resulting corner was taken by Malouda, but the flicked header from William Gallas didn't really threaten anybody. So that was how the first half ended, 1-1. France kicked off the second half and looked much more determined. In the 46th minute, Henry took the ball and skipped past a couple Italian players, but he couldn't get a proper shot off. He went again in the 50th minute, twisting, turning, and skipping past players. This time around, instead of taking the shot himself, he tried to set up a teammate, but his pass was intercepted. The resulting corner ended in Franck Ribéry sending the ball high up over the crossbar. Then, in the 53rd minute, there was real drama. Zidane sent a pass to Malouda, who went down in the box after a strong challenge by Gianluca Zambrotta. France thought they should have gotten another penalty there, but the referee ignored the calls. The beginning of the second half was all France, but it was Italy who found the back of the net in the 62nd minute. And yes, you guessed right, it was from another set piece. Pirlo sent in a cross from a free kick, and Luca Toni was there to head the ball past Barthez and into the net. But the goal was correctly ruled out for offside. That right there was a big scare, so France knew they had to double their efforts to ensure this game didn't slip from their grasp. In the 63rd minute, Henry made another attempt on goal, but it was saved by Buffon. What followed were long-range efforts from Malouda, Ribéry, and Alou Diarra, who had come on for Patrick Vieira in the 56th minute. All of them were wide off the mark. Italy's response to all that came from a Pirlo free kick, but this time around, he didn't cross. He made an attempt on goal from a long way out, and it had Barthez scampering. That was a big scare, but an even bigger scare for France came in the 80th minute, when after a Fabio Cannavaro challenge on Zidane, the France captain went down asking for medical attention. France definitely didn't want to go into extra time without their talisman, so they had their hearts in their mouths. But after some time off the pitch with the medics, Zidane jogged back in, ready to keep going. Huge relief. The scoreline remained the same until the 90th minute, so we were off to extra time. In the 99th minute, Ribéry came so close to winning it for France, but his shot only just missed the target. Then, in the 104th minute, it felt like we saw flashbacks from France '98. Zinedine Zidane found himself unmarked in the Italy box and connected to a cross from Willy Sagnol. It was an incredible header, but Buffon pulled off an even more incredible point-blank save. That right there was Zidane's chance to bow out in the most brilliant fashion. But knowing who he was, everyone was sure he would get another chance in the game. He didn't. The first half of extra time ended on that note, and shortly after the start of the second half, it happened. After a little grapple in the box, the two goal scorers, Zidane and Materazzi, were jogging side by side away from the Italy box. A few words were exchanged, and then suddenly, Zidane, who had jogged ahead of his opponent, turned back and buried his head in Materazzi's chest.
Oh my word! That is extraordinary! A headbutt to the chest of Materazzi.
The referee didn't even see what had happened as it occurred far away from the ball, but when he turned and saw Materazzi on the floor clutching his chest, he asked for the game to be stopped. He went to his assistants, but they had no idea what had happened either. So, he had to consult with the fourth official via his headset, who confirmed what happened. So the referee brought out the inevitable red card and flashed it at the France number 10. On the very last day of his glorious career, Zinedine Zidane was forced to do the lonely walk of shame. With that, Zidane became the first player to ever get red-carded in extra time of a World Cup final, the second player to get sent off in 2 different World Cup tournaments, and the fourth player to get sent off in a World Cup final. He was making the wrong kind of history that night. Now, obviously, it was a moment of madness from Zizou, one that you would not have expected from such an experienced player, but when you hear what led to it, you maybe get to understand a little. During their little scuffle in the box, which involved a lot of shirt pulling, Zidane jokingly asked Materazzi if he wanted his shirt, and according to reports, the Italian defender responded, "I'd prefer your sister."
Okay, he offered me his jersey.
Yeah.
I say, no, I prefer your sister.
That's great.
Remember, having played for Juventus for 5 years, Zidane understood Italian, so when he heard that, he totally lost it. he immediately turned around and did what he did. Zidane later apologized to the French people for his headbutt on the defender, but maintained that he didn't regret his behavior as it would have meant that he was right to say what he said. He also said he would rather die than apologize to Materazzi. Zizou didn't specify what comments were made to him, but he said that they were very personal and concerned his mother and sister, and it probably made it worse that Zidane's mom was in hospital at the time. The France captain said he tried to ignore it, but Materazzi just kept on repeating the horrible comments, so he lost it. The words hit Zidane so hard that he would have rather been knocked down than have to hear that.
But a lot of people that are watching will know you as the guy that Zidane headbutted.
Yeah.
Have you not seen him at all since at all?
No, but
Wow.
we will try. But for me, I'm open. We are old. I'm grandfather right now,
Yeah.
so I don't need to fight. I'm so respect him about what he did in a player career, also in manager career.
Yeah.
What's happened on the pitch, finish on the pitch.
Materazzi also came out to apologize. He said what he said was silly, but it wasn't deserving of the reaction it got. However, he insisted that he never insulted Zidane's mother and that he would never even do such a thing as he had lost his own mum when he was just 15 years old and it still affects him. He added that Zidane was his hero and he had a lot of admiration for the Frenchman. But contrary to the Italians' comments, Daily Star, The Times and The Sun all claim to have hired lip readers which came to the conclusion that Materazzi called Zidane the son of a terrorist whore. But Materazzi strongly denied he ever said such, and he eventually got a public apology from Daily Star and The Sun and won libel damages from all three newspapers.
You know, in the tabloid in London,
Tableau,
they wrote very bad words on me. I won against them.
Nice.
I won. It's not normal. You
Defamation.
won,
Exactly. Defamatory. they used to-
Normally, defamatory. You
Yeah.
cannot win
Yeah.
against
Yes,
the tabloid.
Usually very
in
hard.
English.
Yeah, very hard.
I won in the court. I take money and I give for the.
Years later, Materazzi confirmed that his exact words to Zidane were, "I'd prefer the whore that is your sister," but he didn't even know that Zidane had a sister. Anyway, without Zidane on the pitch, France managed to hold things together and go to penalties. Pirlo stepped up first and converted coolly. Then Wiltord responded for France by also converting his kick. Marco Materazzi, the villain of the night, stepped up second for Italy and scored his penalty. Then David Trezeguet, who had come on for Frank Ribéry in extra time, hit the crossbar, but unlike Zidane, his penalty didn't cross the line. That kick proved to be very costly, as every other player from both sides remained perfect from the spot. So when Fabio Grosso sent Barthez the wrong way with the fifth kick, Italy were officially crowned champions of the world for the fourth time. The fairy tale was just not to be. If Zidane was still on the pitch, he would very likely have scored his own penalty, and that may have given the team a better chance of clinching the World Cup. So many said he let his country down. But here's the thing, the large majority of the country actually didn't feel let down at all. Polls were done immediately after the final and 61% of French people said that they had already forgiven Zidane while 52% said they understood his actions. It was definitely not the smartest action, but it was surely understandable for many. Fast forward to 2015, Zinedine Zidane made this statement. "If you look at the 14 red cards I had in my career, 12 of them were a result of provocation. This isn't justification. This isn't an excuse, but my passion, temper, and blood made me react." That statement right there summed up Zidane's career. He was always a man of passion. And looking back, it was sort of ironic that on the day he said goodbye to the beautiful game, his passion made him leave that ugly mark behind. But while Zidane's headbutt added a lot of drama to the 2006 World Cup final, it doesn't come close to what we saw in 2022 involving another Ballon d'Or winner in Lionel Messi. If you want to know what a real violent game looks like, with dirty tackles, provocative words, and all colours of cards flying around, click on this video and I'll tell you the whole story.